My dad basically opened a pizza shop. My mom was a hairdresser. So, I mean, you know, very blue collar, hardworking kind of experience as I was growing up. Parents just always trying to make ends meet, and money was always tight. So I decided sometime before I graduated that I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to
Oh,
sit behind a computer trying to figure out how big the beam should be in a skyscraper building. It's only been a couple of weeks now since
hmm.
July 4th, and um, I was communicating with an investor that basically said now he's going to go out and buy a short-term rental property specifically because of bonus depreciation so that he can use those deductions really to offset other income he's expecting. So cost segregation studies, typically you have to hire a engineering professional that has experience with understanding how to break down construction costs in a
Yeah.
building, also understands tax, and also understands law, the depreciation law. Um, and so, cost segregation specialists, basically, this is what we do.
Did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was on a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NewCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to newcalm.com, Mike15 promo code. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Gian Pazzia, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So, with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about these amazing things you're doing with KBKG, cost segregation. From what I understand, you're one of the experts in this country, and I'm really happy about, like I told you before we hit record, about our timing here. Because the big beautiful bill was just signed, and we've got some updates for people. So I'm super excited to have you here, bud. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, Mike, I am super excited. Enjoyed our little conversation before the show, and yeah, let's talk.
We chewed some fat before we hit record. So it happens though, right? So where were you born?
So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. My parents were both immigrants from Italy, born in Italy, and my mom came to the United States when she was about 13, 14. My dad when he was about 19, 20. They both met each other in Boston, and it's kind of the American story with them. My dad basically opened a pizza shop. My mom was a hairdresser, so I mean, you know, very blue collar, hardworking kind of experience as I was growing up. Parents just always trying to make ends meet, and money was always tight. So, uh, it was kind of interesting. I think even though my dad was hardworking, the one thing that I think I got from him and being able to watch him was he was definitely a saver. He wasn't a spender. He wasn't the kind of person that was living in the moment. He was always kind of thinking forward. Um, and he started to invest, take the money he was making and put it into duplexes and triplexes. So we had a couple of those that he was very successful with, and was able to retire on a little bit earlier than kind of most people. And that's kind of how that was my taste in real estate growing up. But yeah, that's kind of how it started.
That's wild. So what was your favorite thing about growing up in the Boston area?
Well, definitely the sports,
Yeah.
the food. I have a big family that's Italian, and a lot of their brothers and sisters had moved to the Boston area, and so the big kind of family gatherings and all that. Um, Going back definitely don't enjoy the winters anymore. As you know, I live here in Los Angeles, not
We're
too far
soft
from.
now. We're
Yeah,
soft.
we're soft. I'm a softie, man. I went back in February a couple of years ago into Boston, and I swear I'd never go back
It's
in
brutal, man.
February again.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely brutal. I don't remember it being that way as a kid. Right? When I grew up in
Plus,
Oklahoma and it was cold and it was, the wind was cutting, and I don't remember it. I don't remember feeling it like it's. I've been out here for 45 years on the West Coast, and I've gotten soft.
yeah.
It's just I don't know how else to say it. I'm
Oh
a
yeah.
now,
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, no, I got you, man. I got you. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Well, I already mentioned it. I think my dad, just in terms of his work ethic and how he saved and how he thought about money and how his kind of core value was to always make sure, you know, maybe I should step back and talk about his childhood because I got to visit where he grew up in Italy.
Yeah.
And he grew up in the south, not too far from a city called Cosenza in the region of Calabria. But he grew up in a mountain town that, you had to travel up there, and it was about 2,000 people or so, one church, one pharmacy, one of those small towns.
Mhm.
And he really came over here because there was very little opportunity back then to do much. And yeah, when he first got over here, he worked as a landscaper,
Mhm.
just mowing lawns and trying to kind of get to that next stage where he worked in restaurants. Eventually, opened up his own pizza joint, um, and my dad was always somebody that when he did something, he really kind of put a lot of pride into
Mhm.
everything he did. It was very meticulous, detail oriented, and I feel like that just all rubbed off on me. And
Mhm.
so with my business now, I think part of our core values is just that commitment to excellence in everything we do and trying
Mhm.
to always get better.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. What a wonderful legacy. So you go to high school in Boston area. What was your favorite subject?
Well, I always excelled in math, right? Math
Mhm.
and science. I was not very good at the other stuff. I wasn't a fan of history and English. Um, Probably because it was my parents didn't like read to me. They
Mhm.
just barely spoke English, right? So,
Right.
so but I think I'm just wired that part of my brain to be more slanted towards math and analytics, and that's what really drove me towards an engineering degree at Purdue, which we talked about.
Mhm. So in high school, did you have a favorite teacher?
Yeah, you're taking me way back. Yeah, I mean, of course, there was always some good teachers. Yeah, I can think of a couple.
The reason I'm asking is my mother-in-law was a teacher for 30 years. I'm now a college professor, believe it or not, an adjunct instructor. As of last month, I was hired, and it's like a lifelong dream. And I love stories about how teachers affect our lives. You know what I mean? Like somebody seeing something in you that you didn't know was there, that kind of thing. So that's the only reason I ask. So you graduate from high school and you decide to go to Purdue, which is not in Boston, by the way. So what is it that made you decide to go to Purdue?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I kind of decided back then. Everybody said this was 30, what is it, 35, 40 years ago.
Mhm.
Engineering was a great career,
Mhm.
and if you're good at math, you're going to be good at engineering. So I kind of made my mind up that okay, let me apply to engineering schools. And so there's a lot of great engineering schools in the Boston
Mhm.
area. Um, Places like BU. There's a place called Worcester Polytech,
Mhm.
Clarkson University, Northeastern, great engineering
Mhm.
schools. And those were the four that were more local in Boston that I applied to. And then the fifth one was kind of the curveball,
Mhm.
Purdue in Indiana. And the reason I applied there was because I had a friend that also went to the same high school also going into engineering that applied to Purdue. And
Oh,
I
there you
said,
go.
why are you applying to Purdue? And he told me all about it. It's one of the best engineering schools in the country.
It is.
It's in the Big Ten
Mm-hmm.
conference, which means sports is great.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so when I was comparing, which school I wanted to go to once I got the offers, Boston schools are great.
Mm-hmm.
They're more expensive, number
Mm-hmm.
one. Their sports programs suck, number two. And
And you're 18
Purdue,
years old. Let's be honest, right?
yeah, no, like Purdue checked all the boxes, and I'll tell you, like I think I want to say it was like 60% of the cost to go to Purdue as even being from out of state.
Yeah.
It actually is known for being one of the best values
Yeah.
for a university compared to the quality of the education. So
Yeah, it's
you know,
absolutely, that's the case. It's a smart
yeah,
choice for sure.
yeah, and it was easy for my dad to understand. He's like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to save
Hmm.
X dollars a year on tuition. I'm behind it." So
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's cool. So what was it like living that far away from home?
yeah, it was definitely um, a difference in culture, right? Boston in the Northeast, kind of like New York, is very fast paced, a
Mhm.
little more edgy. And now I'm in the middle of Indiana, where it really does encompass the Midwest values. People are super nice to each other. So, I was the different one, coming into that kind of place, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was, my first time being in a very different place in the U.S. And yeah, I mean, going from the Northeast to kind of the Midwest and just being around people that are just genuinely warmer
Yeah,
was pleasant.
that's awesome. So going to school at Purdue, what was the single most important thing you learned?
Well, okay, so being an engineer, right? It's
Hmm.
it's all about solving problems, right?
Right.
And so 4 years of getting this engineering degree and going through all these classes like structural steel design and concrete design and everything involved with structures and construction. It was just repeating the process of giving me a bunch of information and knowing what tools I had, the formulas and all those
Hmm.
theories, and then trying to figure out the answer to the problem. So just that kind of training of
Hmm.
being a problem solver and how to assess the problem really helped me kind of just in life, in business, how I think of things very
Hmm.
differently than I think a lot of other people that don't have that engineering mindset. So that comes to mind. And then, sometime around right after my freshman year, um, uh, I did really good the first semester, and then I pledged a fraternity. And I didn't do my grades just kind of slipped in that second semester when I was pledging, right?
When they're competing, right?
Yeah, right,
Right.
right. So I remember being down on myself and thinking, my parents are investing a lot of money into this
Mhm.
college education, and I really have to make a decision. I really have to be committed to doing it and making this my priority, or else what the heck am I doing here?
Right.
So I just had a kind of a coming to Jesus moment where I decided I wasn't going to screw around until I had everything done.
Hmm.
And that just became kind of like a new philosophy for the way I approach life is I'm not going to I'm not going to go to that party. I'm going to get every piece of homework done that I need to get done, and then I'll go hang out with my buddies. And
Right.
um so
Got
anyway,
your priorities straight.
got my priorities straight, and things went well.
That's cool. So you graduate from Purdue. Where do you go from there?
Um so I decided sometime before I graduated that I didn't want to be an engineer. I didn't want to
Oh,
sit behind a computer trying to figure out how big the beam should be in a skyscraper building. Um, but it was too, I was at a point where I decided, it's better for me to graduate, get this degree, because
mhm.
there's a lot of other companies that I could use this background with. And so I started looking for non-engineering type jobs. And
Okay.
there was a company called Arthur Andersen back then.
Yeah.
They were really one of the biggest accounting CPA
Hmm.
firms in the world. It was called the Big Five back then,
Yeah.
and they were looking for construction engineers with my kind of background to come in there and do cost segregation studies.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, and
All that way back, huh?
all that way back, yeah, and
Wow.
they were doing it really for massive companies like the casinos in Las Vegas, the
Hmm.
Bellagio, the Caesars. They were doing these cost seg studies. Um, Big, huge pharmaceutical manufacturers, needed to have these studies done, and yeah, that's I right out of school, I kind of fell into this world of tax, and here I am today.
Wow. So, where was Arthur Andersen's office when you joined Arthur Andersen? What office did you join?
Oh yeah. So I ended up in Chicago. Yeah,
Okay.
that was their headquarters. So I moved to Chicago, and because I had a lot of friends that went to Purdue, a lot of them ended up in Chicago. So
Right.
it was an easy move for me, and was still around a lot of people I knew.
That's cool. So, how long were you with Arthur Andersen in Chicago?
So I was there 2 years, and then I moved to Price Waterhouse Coopers,
Hmm.
and
One of the another big five, right?
another one of them, and did the same thing there for about 3 years, and uh, that's when KBKG, the partners that I co-founded it with at the time, had found me through a headhunter and brought me out to Los Angeles, and we started the firm.
That's cool. So, what kind of a change was it from Boston to Purdue, then Purdue to Chicago, then Chicago to LA?
Yeah, I mean, literally end to end here.
Yeah.
Um, so when I first got to LA,
Yeah.
ended up leasing a room in Beverly Hills, um, driving out to Pasadena where our headquarters were, and that was temporary.
Hmm.
It was definitely another kind of culture shock.
Hmm.
LA's spread out. I was used to being in the city where I
Hmm.
literally got left my condo, got on the train, and door to door, I was just about 22 minutes,
Hmm.
right? No car, didn't need any of that. And now I'm in LA where it's totally spread out. I'm sitting in the car for, over an hour these days.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, since our office was in Pasadena, I didn't live near the beach because
Hmm.
I thought I was coming from Chicago, and I couldn't deal with a commute that long. So
Yeah.
I ended up moving about 15 minutes from the office. And yeah, just trying to start over. I literally knew zero people in LA when I moved here. Zero.
Right. Wild. And that was how long ago?
That was almost 25 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild, man. So, cost segregation. Can you talk for just a second about what that is for people that don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So cost segregation is a way for real estate investors to pay less in taxes by speeding up how fast they're going to write off parts of their building.
Hmm.
So normally the tax rules say that you have to depreciate or write off income producing property real estate over 27 or 39 years, right?
Hmm.
Depending on whether it's residential or commercial. But not everything in the building lasts that long. And so, you know, the rules are always overly complicated, but there's different tax lives depending on the type of building component it is. And so stuff like vinyl flooring in a residential rental unit, or the cabinetry, appliances, asphalt driveways outside of the structure. These can all be depreciated over a quicker tax life. And so a cost segregation study breaks the property into all those different pieces, and you get to write off a lot of those now in the very first year that you acquire the property. And so you get this huge increase in tax deductions right away instead of spreading that out over decades. And so really, I like to let's put some numbers to this. So let's say you bought a property, let's use a small one, a rental home for $300,000. You're supposed to value the land and separate the building, right? So let's say the land was worth $30,000 and you don't get to write that off.
Right.
Okay, so let's put that off to the side. Now we have $270,000 of what we call the building and improvements. Without a cost seg study, you're going to get to write off $10,000 each year for 27 years, right? $270,000. The tax life is 27 years. But with the cost segregation study, by going in and identifying all those things I just mentioned, you can get as much as 25% that building value and get to write it off in year one. So now we're looking at 25% of 270,000. That's $54,000 of deductions in year one compared to the 10,000 that you would have if you didn't do the study. So that increase, $44,000, it's really, that's accelerating your deductions, and that's providing huge value. That's a small property. As you know, when the values get bigger, these numbers can just be staggering, and it's why it's become kind of a no-brainer for most sophisticated real estate investors to do these studies.
That's cool. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how cost segregation is such a key part of the big, beautiful bill that was just signed by President Trump. We'll be right back. Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called newcalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with newcalm.com. Go to newcalm.com today, promo code Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go there today. And we're back with Gian Pazzia, Gian Pazzia, I apologize. And we were talking before about what cost segregation is. Now, cost segregation is an even bigger part, apparently, of the big, beautiful bill that was signed by President Trump. Can you talk about how that's been sort of accentuated or expanded?
Yeah, definitely. So the big, beautiful bill, one of the biggest kind of incentives, if you will, for all businesses is what's called 100% bonus depreciation. It's also known as full expensing. And what that means is that any company that's buying assets that is considered, well, the rule is it has to have a tax life of 20 years or less. And that includes any piece of equipment or machinery that any company has to use for any purpose. It could be vehicles, tractors, trailers, manufacturing equipment lines, and all that stuff.
Right.
All of that has like either a 5 or a 7 year tax life. It also includes land improvements. So any company that needs to invest in real estate and site improvements, et cetera. The things that I mentioned inside the building also have that short tax life of 5, 7, or 15 years.
Right.
And so anything that meets that definition now gets the 100% bonus depreciation, which means it's all written off in year one.
Wow.
Which is a huge difference, because without bonus depreciation, if you spent $100,000 on a vehicle or piece of equipment, you might have to write that off over 7 years.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it's huge. It's definitely something that, not just real estate owners, but businesses of all type, it provides them incentive to make more capital purchases.
So I saw something about 1, 3, 5, 7 year windows or something like that. Was that different types of items that are in this cost segregation analysis? So is that basically the life? Um, is that the life of that particular asset?
Yeah, so by making this permanent, by the way, it kind of simplifies things quite a bit.
Right.
Before this became permanent, like you said, different assets had different tax lives that tax preparers had to remember and understand. And
Right.
there was a lot of them, and you had to know which category it fell into. And so as long as it has, under the system, a tax life of 20 years or less, now you just write it off in total, which is
In the
beautiful
first year?
in the first year.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah,
How powerful is that?
it's powerful. I mean, it is absolutely changing behavior for certain folks. It's only been a couple of weeks now since
Mhm.
July 4th, and um, I was communicating with an investor that basically said now he's going to go out and buy a short-term rental property specifically because of bonus depreciation, so that he can use those deductions really to offset other income he's expecting.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, changing behavior. Yeah, definitely. Let me put it this way, Mike. When you can take one action and quickly generate a bunch of deductions,
Mhm.
makes it really easy. Makes it very good for tax planning, right?
Mhm.
There's not a lot of areas in the tax code that allow you to take action to mitigate taxes. And
Right.
when you're talking about buying a piece of real estate, which is likely going to go up in value,
Mhm.
makes it and then you couple that with, not only is it going to go up in value and spit off income, but I'm also going to take these paper losses, these
Mhm.
depreciation deductions, and be able to use it against other income. It becomes a lot easier to make that investment. It
Yeah.
just pencils out much better.
Well, it's an incentive, right?
Absolutely.
It's an incentive to buy commercial real estate and create that write-off. So you're one of the specialists in this country about when it comes to cost segregation. One of the things we talked about before we hit record was you all have a cost segregation source that people can use, and you even have a discount code for our listeners, which is awesome. Thank you, by the way. So can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, look, so cost segregation studies, typically you have to hire a engineering professional that has experience with understanding how to break down construction costs in a
Yeah.
building, also understands tax, and also understands law, the depreciation law. Um, and so, cost segregation specialists, basically, this is what we do. Um, Normally, we're going out to the property, inspecting it, surveying it, taking photographs, measuring, counting what's in the buildings. And that can be expensive, but it's usually well worth the cost, because if you're spending money on a $2 to $10 million building, you're talking about generating $500,000 to $1 million of deductions
Mhm.
sometimes, and you're having to pay somebody, like cost seg specialists, somewhere between five to maybe $10,000 to do that.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's what the IRS wants to see. The IRS has a guide out there. It's called the Cost Segregation Audit Techniques Guide. And they want to see these studies done correctly because they are so meaningful for tax purposes. Um, and what we did back in 2016 is we created a software package and it was meant for smaller properties, because what we saw was that for properties that you spent $1 million or more, right? It made sense to go out and pay someone $5,000 to $10,000 because they were generating a significant amount of deductions, and people were happy to pay that. But the problem was that once you started looking at smaller properties that were being purchased for $300,000, $400,000, the deductions, maybe that you're spitting off $30,000 or $40,000 of extra deductions, like my example earlier, just it didn't make sense to pay somebody, $4,000 or $5,000 to do that. So that's what our software is solving for. It allows real estate owners to basically enter in key physical characteristics of their property. So things like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what kind of HVAC, what kind of flooring is in each room, whether it's carpet or vinyl. Is there ceiling fans? Which appliances came with the property? How many units? There's 4 units. There's 4 kitchens that it takes into account. How many parking spots are in the driveway? Is there landscaping? Is there fencing? All these things you can pretty easily get through in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And it'll generate a cost segregation report for $500. And you can hand that report to your CPA. It'll break your purchase price down into all of the different components that we talked about. And it'll be what your tax preparer needs to put on the tax return so that you can claim your, those extra deductions.
That's cool, man. So there's a discount code, I take it?
Yeah. So for any one of your listeners that's interested in checking it out, you would go to costsegregation.com. Okay. It's costsegregation.com. And if you sign up for the software, you would type in the promo code Mike Litton 2025, and that's in all caps. So Mike Litton 2025. Yeah. MIKELITTON. There it is. 2025, all caps. And first time users of the software will get a 10% discount.
Wow.
And yeah.
So you're already charging 10% of what normally would be charged. And then on top of it, they're getting a 10% discount. That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does tomorrow look like for you and for KBKG?
Well, we're starting to see an uptick in we're getting busy. Let's put it that way. So it wasn't just the bonus depreciation from the big beautiful bill, but there was some other tax provisions that are causing movement. Let's put it that way. People that were considering hiring us for things, and now that the bill has passed, there's certainty. And so I think cost segregation firms all over the country are just getting busier right now.
Yeah, should be. Certainly should be. So are you thinking about writing a book? Are you working on anything else for the future?
No book. We do a ton of thought leadership, Mike, like a ton. Like there's so much, the tax rules are always changing, and there's always nuances to all of this stuff. And so in terms of just writing, we're always pushing new stuff out there. So for any of your listeners that want to stay on top of these tax incentives for real estate, definitely want to go to kbkg.com and subscribe. And we're putting probably something out once every other week that really talks about how you can take advantage of this stuff. You can also follow me on LinkedIn because we're always posting over there these same kind of updates. And I'm the only Gian Pazzia in the world, by the way. Gian Pazzia, Pazzia, and you will find me on LinkedIn. Please connect with me if you do.
Yeah. I think I have a connection request in for you now.
I did right before the show.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been amazing.
Yeah, 100%. This has been awesome.
Appreciate you, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called newcalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. Newcalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. Newcalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.